Hey there, interwebs, and welcome back to Flagshaming. If you're just joining the series now, I've already made a dozen videos examining the official flags of every US state, territory, and Washington, D.C., but I'm not quite done with them yet. You see, I've offered plenty of criticism, both objective and subjective, but what I feel the topic really needs is a quantitative ranking. I won't be making a numbered list of all 56 from best to worst, no, that way madness lies, but I will be categorically grading them. Full disclosure, I stole this idea from CGP Grey on the Hello Internet podcast, but he brought it up 5 years ago and hasn't made it since then. He had his chance. How will I be grading them? I pretend to hear you ask in the future and across great distances? Simple. I'll use the American letter grade system. Every flag starts out with an A ranking, but loses a letter grade for each one of the 5 rules of flag design which it violates. I covered them in more detail in episode 0, but just to recap, they are as follows. 1. Keep it simple. 2. Use meaningful symbolism. 3. Use 2 or 3 basic colors. 4. No lettering or seals. And 5. Be distinct or be related. If a flag follows all of these, it gets an A. If it breaks 4 or more, it gets an F. That's my objective rubric. I'll also be awarding pluses and minuses based on whether or not I personally find the design visually appealing or think the grade needs a tweak for some other reason. Now let's get started. Delaware. Keep it simple. Nope. Use 2 or 3 basic colors. No. No lettering or seals. Hard fail. Use meaningful symbolism. Okay, this one they actually did, but you can't tell because the symbols are so small. Be distinct or be related. I do have to give them credit for this one due to their distinctive diamond shape and the unique color choice. Overall, D-. It's a seal on a bedsheet, but at least it's an interesting bedsheet. That brings us to Pennsylvania, which is worse than Delaware in pretty much the only way it could be. It's an SOS, or seal on a sheet, and that sheet is blue. For the sake of efficiency, I'm just going to tell you now that every SOS with a blue field is going to fail. Pennsylvania, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Virginia, New York, Vermont, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Kansas, North Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Utah, and Oklahoma. Hard fails, all of them. The only seals on blue sheets that avoid this are Oregon, Nebraska, and South Dakota, who get D- because they limited themselves to 2 or 3 colors. New Jersey. As a native Philadelphian, it pains me to say this, but I can't actually give New Jersey a fail. They are taking that Delawarean D-, however. They're the only state in the Union with an SOS on a yellow field, and that makes them just distinctive enough to be recognizable. Of course, if New York were to go back to their old flag, that would no longer be the case. New York's already failing, and while the color change wouldn't raise them up to a D, it would drag New Jersey down to an F, and I can see them doing that just out of spite. Washington's flag is also saved from an automatic failure only by the unique color of its solid green field. Georgia. Oh boy. Keep it simple. With the exception of the seal in the canton, it's simple enough. If a child drew it from memory, I'd still be able to recognize it. Use 2 or 3 basic colors. Red, white, and blue are a solid color choice, but that gold in the seal pushes it into failure. Use meaningful symbolism. They did, but the problem is that the symbolism's meaning is terrible. It's just the Confederate flag with Georgia's state seal on it, which means they're also failing at rule number 4, no seals. Number 5, be distinct or be related. It's related, I'll give it that. Overall, it gets a C, but I have to give it the hardest C- possible. The same grade goes to North Carolina for the same reasons. Mississippi's is a bit more difficult. Just judging aesthetically, it's simple, uses only 3 colors, and has no writing on it, so it can't do any worse than a C. It's only when we get into meaningful symbolism that things get problematic. Overall, this resembles the Confederate flag, and more importantly, the canton is the Virginian battle flag. Politics and civil rights issues aside, that's still the wrong state, and Mississippi fails at symbolism. C-. Massachusetts. I almost had to give this flag a D- on the strength of its plain white field, but Illinois also uses one, and good luck telling the two apart in the wild. The flag of the US Virgin Islands is also pretty similar to Illinois', being yet another seal on a white sheet. Failure to all 3 of them. Maryland. Okay, my personal opinions on this flag are well documented, so this is going to be difficult, but I'll try to stay objective. Keep it simple. It's not super detailed, but it's still visually busy. Use meaningful symbolism. Yes, those are the arms of Sir George Calvert, 1st Baron Baltimore. Use 2 or 3 basic colors. Missed it by that much. No lettering or seals. None to be seen here. Be distinct or be related. It's certainly very distinct. Overall grade, C+, bordering on a B. It would be a B+, bordering on an A, but it uses more than 3 colors. Colorado and Arizona also each lose a letter grade for having 4 colors as well, which makes me think that 2 or 3 colors is maybe a little too restrictive. Obviously, you don't need more than that to make a great flag, but you can still have one with 4 or more. Maryland, Colorado, and Arizona all use 4 colors, and they all look better than Rhode Island, Indiana, and Nebraska, which only use 2 or 3. The Pride flag looks better than them as well, despite using 6 colors. I think the key factor is not how many colors you have, but how you use them. All of the good flags use color in large areas. There are no small spaces of color that are hard to pick out, which prevents things from getting muddy. Colorado also seems to be breaking the no lettering rule as well, but that C is more like an abstract symbol than lettering to be read. If Colorado's C earns it a C, then Ohio's O should knock it down a letter grade as well. Nevertheless, I'm afraid I still can't award Colorado and Arizona any grade higher than a B+, even though they really deserve A's. South Carolina, A friggin' plus. This flag could only be improved by changing the background color, because blue has been ruined by seals on bedsheets. Rhode Island. That banner with the word hope fails the no lettering rule and nearly costs the flag its simplicity as well. Gold on white also isn't a great color choice, but apart from those small complaints, Rhode Island gets a solid B for a solid effort. Tennessee. Perfect. A+. Same goes for Ohio and their outside-the-box approach to shapes. Indiana. I'll be honest, I almost failed this flag with the rest of the blue field SOSs, so we already know that it fails to be distinct. It also has the state name written on it, so it loses a letter grade there, too. All things considered, it gets a C, a middling grade for a middling design. Alabama. If we limit our field of view to U.S. state flags, then Alabama doesn't break any rules of flag design and should get an A. The issue is that other flags exist, such as St. Patrick's Saltire, one of the unofficial flags of Northern Ireland and 1/3 of the Union Jack. For this reason, I'm bumping Alabama's Saltire down to a B+. Missouri. That's the state seal, but their sheet is based on the French tricolor. The same is true for Iowa, and they can both take the D and be gone from my sight. Arkansas, B, and only because they put their name on it. Good idea when you're turning in your homework, bad idea when you're turning in a flag design. Florida. The only thing differentiating this flag from Alabama's is the state seal. Unfortunately, that means it breaks 3 of the first 4 rules. While not related to Alabama, it is related to a historical flag of Spain and is otherwise fairly distinct, so it gets a D. Speaking of looking like other flags you aren't related to, next up is Texas. B+, because Chile beat them to the Lone Star Punch. The other Lone Star flag is California, which is going to take more effort to unpack. Keep it simple. Kinda? I keep going back and forth on this one. It's just a star, a stripe, a bear, and some words. But on the other hand, that's a complicated bear, and again, words. Meaningful symbolism, yes. 2 to 3 colors, no. There's red, white, green, and 2 different shades of brown. Next, no lettering or seals, and that's a hard fail. At least it's distinctive. Total score, C, but they could have had an A if they'd only simplified the bear and, far more importantly, removed their name. West Virginia. It's not simple, it has too many colors and too many words, but what else is new? Well, that white field and blue border, I guess. It's the only thing it has which sets it apart from Massachusetts and Illinois and makes it distinct. D-. Nevada. This one is weird. It's almost like a seal on a blue bedsheet, but that's not the state seal and it's been moved to the canton. In my first look at it, I gave it a double shame bell, but let's be more objective now. It breaks the usual 3 rules about letters, colors, and simplicity, but because it doesn't conform by putting its symbol in the corner, it scrapes by with a D-. Wyoming. Okay, this flag actually gets a pass for meaningful symbolism, 2 or 3 basic colors, and a distinct look, but gets a hard fail for no lettering or seals, which means it also breaks the first rule of keep it simple. Overall, it gets a C, but it could have had an A if it weren't for that damned seal. New Mexico. This design follows every rule and earns an A, but I'm still giving it an A-. Most state flags are too complicated, but I think this one is too simple and looks more like a corporate logo than a flag. Alaska is also teetering on the edge of overly simple, in my opinion, but it manages to avoid that corporate logo look. It's simple, meaningful, and distinct, with no lettering or seals. Alaska gets an easy A, and so does Hawaii. Actually, Hawaii gets an A+, but just because it's the only state flag with a Union Jack, and I support vexillological weirdness. Keep up the good work, Ohio. Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico both get A's as well, but not Guam. Their flag isn't simple and uses 7 different colors because they put their seal on it. They also put on a red border, and that thin red line is the only thing saving it from failure, earning it a D- instead. Also taking a D- is the Mariana Islands, but unlike almost every other D- on this list, it's not skirting failure with a unique field. They went with the standard blue, but at least had the common sense to not use any lettering. Lastly, we have American Samoa. Much like California, this flag would be simple were it not for the overly complicated animal mascot, which means it also has way too many colors. But at least it's meaningful, distinct, and doesn't have any words on it. C+. Ultimately, here's our final ranking. So, what have we learned from all of this? Well, about 70% of all state flags are crap, but we already knew that. Putting the state seal on your flag virtually guarantees that it will have meaningful symbolism, but you'll also be breaking 3 other of the 5 basic rules unless you pull an Oregon and make your state seal a single color. All that leaves you with is be distinct or be related, and using a blue field will get you an automatic F. Of course, the corollary to all this is that you can still use your state seal if you really want, and as long as your field is unique, you'll still squeak by with a D-. Confederate copycats cop Cs, which stands for, come on guys, really? And of course, how many colors you have is less important than how you use them. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.